Listen, I can sit here and list all the amazing things about the internet and how it's changed our lives for the better, how we're able to communicate with each other like never before, and the fact that the internet itself has overall made our lives so much more better. But I personally think the exact opposite has happened. The internet has ruined society. More specifically, social media has destroyed so many younger people's lives. Before social media was even a thing, the world already had so many toxic constructs of beauty. But I think it was a lot more simplified. There was pretty much like you were fat or you were skinny, you were ugly, you were pretty, and maybe a couple things in between, but that was pretty much it. But now we have so many social media platforms that are just based on your beauty. TikTok pretty, ugly privilege, Gen Z versus Gen Alpha pretty, Fox pretty, Bunny pretty. And I think when you grow up with this as your normal, it destroys your self-esteem. Being a 10-year-old girl on, Snapchat is like the most heartbreaking thing ever. Social media apps tell you that you're too fat or how to lose weight the fast and easy way. You need this makeup to look more mature and sexy and beautiful. There are trends that are on the internet that people have created that compare how like fatter or smaller you are by like getting a piece of paper and trying to put it and cover up your waist or your stomach, or trying to get a pair of earphones and seeing how many times you can wrap it around your body, putting goldfish in your collarbone. They built like this little stand in Asia where you have to like see how many times you can walk through it, and that tells you how like fat or skinny you are. When you grow up in a world, especially as a girl, that's kind of just centered around how you look, how are you supposed to know what love is when the world is basically telling you to hate your body? Thousands of people suffer from body dysmorphia, which is essentially a mental health condition when a person spends a lot of time worrying about a certain flaw in their appearance. And a lot of times it'll just be over the most randomest, body part, like their arms, for example. And the internet really attributes to why people feel the need to like pick apart their body and find anything and everything wrong with it. When you go online, you can like zoom in and crop things out and just pick apart and just look at every single tiny little minute thing that is on your body, and it's insane to me. And it doesn't help that people are already using like Facetune and photoshopping their bodies and making their bodies appear different than how it really looks. They make their stomach flatter and their waist smaller, their eyes bigger, their nose smaller. I mean, body dysmorphia is a condition that thousands of people suffer from each year. And it's like when you have that dysmorphia, no matter like what anyone tells you, no matter how many times people try to make you feel better about yourself, it doesn't just go away. Madison Beer is someone who heavily struggled with body dysmorphia. And I always find that so interesting because Madison Beer is like someone who I think fits the modern day beauty standards to like a T. Like if I had to describe what the beauty standards are in Western society, I would just describe her. But ever since Madison has been in the spotlight, the one thing that people have been obsessed with talking about is her looks. Because believe it or not, when you're in the public, no matter who you are, people will make it their absolute mission to try to tear you apart and destroy any self-love that you have within yourself. And because of how people treated her online is a huge contributing factor as to why she developed body dysmorphia.
I have been sort of struggling over the past couple months with some like body dysmorphia, body image issues. I had so many people impact me so negatively about my body when I was younger. I grew up like pretty happy. I thought that I had a nice body, but hearing endless comments about how I don't, it was really, really impactful to me when I was so young. I literally remember 2-3 weeks ago, I was sort of restricting myself a lot and I really wasn't eating as much as I should be. And I saw a comment on something and it was basically like, someone needs to tell her to stop eating and put the fork down was the comment. And it just, and I'm getting to a place where I'm feeling more confident, but it does suck and it is really hurtful when people have no idea what you're going through behind closed doors.
And like I said, just looking at Madison, it's like you would never know that she was like going through anything like that. I know Megan Fox was also someone who struggled with body dysmorphia, and she talked about ever since she was a little girl, she simply hated her body and she didn't like what she saw in the mirror.
I have body dysmorphia. I don't ever see myself the way other people see me. There's never a point in my life where I loved my body, never ever. When I was little, like that was an obsession I had of like, but I should look this way. And why I had an awareness of my body that young I'm not sure. And it definitely wasn't environmental because I grew up in a very religious environment where bodies weren't even like acknowledged. The journey of like loving myself is going to be never ending, I think.
And I think it's extremely heartbreaking that she said that she has never loved her body.
When people probably think of Megan Fox in high school, they're like, I would have killed to look like you. Like, did you have insecurities?
Yeah, I've had body dysmorphia since I was probably like 5. I can remember sitting in the back of my sister's car. She was getting married, and I even remember what I was wearing. I had black shorts that had white polka dots on them, and I was in the back seat looking at my legs being like, I have such fat thighs. My thighs are so fat. I was 5. My mom said that I used to go into the bathroom and stand on the toilet and pull up my shirt to see if my boobies had grown, and I would get really upset that I didn't have big boobs, and now $30,000 later, now I do.
And she talked about because of her insecurities and her dysmorphia, she's gotten multiple boob jobs and a rhinoplasty. And her and thousands of other people end up going under the knife and trying to change something about themselves to try to fix what they can't fix themselves. From hair transplants and body sculpting, I mean anything they can do just to erase the body that they were born into. I've seen people like completely change what they look like from head to toe. And these days you can literally get anything that you want done, essentially. All that because they hate the body that they were born into, or they hate a certain part of their body, or whatever the case is, and it's heartbreaking. Lauren Gray was someone who also really was affected by social media. Lauren got really famous at a very young age, and she was exposed to the internet and everything that came with it. And there was one point of her life where she was just very upset about how she looked, and because people were constantly telling her that she looked ugly and fat.
When I was 14, I was live broadcasting and someone commented that I was fat. And I was like, oh my God, I'm fat. I have to do something about this. And then it was 4 years of restrictive eating. My entire day was just workouts. To me, looking back and seeing the state that I was in, I was so insecure, never good enough. My hair was falling out. I couldn't stay awake. I had no energy. And I was 16 years old.
When you hear people constantly telling you to lose weight or that your body looks this way or that way, eventually it's gonna start affecting you. And it sucks because she didn't sign up for that. A life where your body's under a microscope and people are constantly like trying to find things wrong with it. Like who wants that? So she struggled with simply loving and accepting herself, and it took her a while to get there. And I understand that TikTok is supposed to be like this fun and like relatable app, but TikTok is a monumental instigator as to why so many people hate their bodies. I see too many people making these like weird thirst traps where they're flaunting and showing off their bodies to the camera at like every angle, or literally talking about how flat their stomach is, or rubbing it in the fact that they have like a six-pack. And to the people that are making videos about skinny problems or curvy problems, like I understand they're just trying to be relatable, but like showing off how thin or like curvy you are can be really triggering to someone who has body dysmorphia. And I get it that like it feels like you can't post anything without someone being triggered, and I feel like that is true to a certain extent. Like I feel like if people like post one thing, then people are like, oh, you're triggering me or whatever, and it's really annoying. But that's what happens when you have and suffer from a mental condition. And I think after doing a lot of reflecting, I realized that I struggled a lot with body dysmorphia growing up, and for me it was with my hip dips. And the hip dips are like essentially like the natural curves that you have like in your hips, and I'm generally talking about when it comes to women and their bodies, because like we all know the hourglass figure is like the ultimate beauty standard to have, and pretty much every single female public figure that's a woman has an hourglass figure, whether they got it through surgery or not, in which in a lot of cases they do. And growing up seeing that on TV every single day and every single night, it broke me. I was so mad at myself. Why did I have to be born with something so ugly and so disgusting, and something that I felt like no one else had? I didn't feel pretty, and I didn't feel like a woman, because real women are not supposed to have hip dips, or so I thought. And now that I'm older, I realize that like millions of women have hip dips, and it's actually like a natural and normal thing to have, and it actually all has to do with your bone structure, which is something that we can't control. And I spent months months and months and months. I remember like every summer I spent months like working out and trying to fill out my hip dips with all the workouts I could, and looking up exercises that promise like, oh, get rid of hip dips in 5 months, or do this to get rid of the dips in your hips and all this other stuff. And I would do those believing that if I did those exercises, then I wouldn't have any more hip dips and I would have like what everyone else had. But of course they didn't do anything for me, and it's sad because like my body is my body, and like it's something that I can't change, and it's something that I should have embraced and I didn't. But I think that if it weren't for social media, I never would have thought that it was abnormal to have hip dips. I never would have felt bad about my body. And it makes me wonder, like, if social media wasn't a thing, would people still be struggling with things like body dysmorphia? Like constantly worrying about a certain part of your body and constantly comparing it to the people that you see online. I remember the show, the Dallas cheerleaders making the squad, whatever that show is called. They would have to go through a part of their training camp where they like have to have like a certain measurement and have to be a certain size to fit on the team, and they would like poke at the women's bodies and like if you weren't a certain size you couldn't fit into the uniform. And I'm just sitting here like, what is this? Like, it was so sad to see all those women like having to fit in this label and fit in this category and size in order to be a cheerleader.
I've seen weight gain, and I hope the scale will disagree with me because Cheryl looks heavier.
It's not fun getting called out for the weight issue over and over and over. I'm trying my best to get where I need to be, and it's just hard because body image is such a delicate thing with women, but it's part of the job.
I've been working so hard, and I just am frustrated with my body because I'm not going down. Being 18, it's just like, you know.
And that's even with like Twin Peaks and Hooters. And I understand like they're supposed to be, you know, when you work in those jobs, it's mainly about, you know, your body, and that's a selling point and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like these are how these conditions like body dysmorphia develop, because when we're watching that online on the TV, or even to the woman who went through that, it's like when you're being picked apart by your body and being told like what you can and can't wear, and this is too big, this is too small, like that's gonna destroy you, you know. And so it's like no wonder so many women feel so insecure about themselves and their bodies. Like I don't think I've ever met any woman ever in my entire life that at some point struggled with some type of insecurity. Like even if it was like a small minute little thing, like it was always something, right? Because of social media and because of what we see and what the standards are. When you have body dysmorphia, you are obsessed with just looking at yourself and either like going into mirrors 24/7 and looking at yourself, or avoiding them altogether, going through like extreme lengths to conceal what you think are flaws on your body. And I think that like thanks to the internet, trying to overcome body dysmorphia is like 1,000 times more harder than it ever was. And I think it's only going to get worse from here. And it's just very, very sad to see, you know, eating disorders and body dysmorphia and all these things are really always centered around women, because when it comes to women and their bodies, that's all anyone cares about, and that's just how the world works, and it's not fair and it's not right. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, give this video a big thumbs up and leave your comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week for my next video. Bye guys.